In the dim glow of the high school gymnasium, transformed into a glittering prom wonderland with twinkling lights and swirling disco balls, Aisha Thompson stood frozen as a bucket of slimy, red punch cascaded over her head. The cold liquid soaked through her elegant emerald gown, the one her grandmother had sewn by hand from scraps saved over years of hardship. Laughter erupted like thunder from the group of bullies circling her, their faces twisted in cruel delight. "Welcome to America, Jungle Girl," one sneered, his voice cutting through the music. Aisha's fists clenched instinctively, her mind flashing back to the boxing ring where she'd learned to turn pain into power. But tonight, she wasn't in the ring. She was the new girl, the black immigrant from Nigeria, and this was supposed to be her night of dreams. Little did they know, the girl they humiliated was a ruthless boxer, forged in fire, and this was only the beginning of her fight. Aisha had arrived in the small town of Evergreen, Ohio, just 6 months earlier, her family fleeing political unrest in Lagos. Her father, a former engineer, now worked double shifts at a factory, while her mother cleaned houses to make ends meet. Aisha, at 17, carried the weight of their hopes on her slender shoulders. Back home, she'd been a star in the underground boxing circuits, trained by her uncle, a retired pro fighter who'd seen her potential when she was just 10. "You're not just punching gloves, Aisha," he'd say, wiping sweat from her brow. "You're punching through life's barriers." She was ruthless in the ring, quick jabs, devastating hooks, and an unyielding spirit that left opponents dazed. But in Evergreen High, she hid that side of herself, desperate to fit in. She spoke softly, smiled politely, and buried her accent under layers of practiced American slang. Yet, from day one, the bullies targeted her, the exotic girl with skin like polished ebony and braids that told stories of a faraway home. The ringleader was Brittany Hayes, the prom queen hopeful with bleach blonde hair and a smile that masked venom. Brittany's life looked perfect on the surface. Cheerleader captain, daughter of the town's mayor, surrounded by a clique of followers who echoed her every taunt. But deep down, Brittany wrestled with her own demons. Her parents' messy divorce had left her feeling invisible, and she channeled that rage into dominating others. Why does she even bother coming here? Brittany would whisper in the hallways, her eyes narrowing at Aisha's secondhand backpack. Joining her were Jake, the football star masking his academic failures with bravado, and Mia, the insecure follower who laughed loudest to hide her loneliness. They started small, tripping Aisha in the cafeteria, mocking her lunch of jollof rice as weird foreign slop, and spreading rumors that she was stealing scholarships from real Americans. Aisha endured it silently at first, telling herself it was temporary. "Just graduate and move on," her mother advised, hugging her tight after a particularly bad day. But each jab chipped away at her confidence, making her question if she'd ever belong. As prom approached, Aisha found a glimmer of hope in Marcus, the quiet artist in her English class. With warm brown eyes and a sketchbook full of dreams, Marcus saw beyond the labels. He was biracial, navigating his own identity struggles in a town that prized conformity. "You're stronger than they know," he told her one afternoon in the library, his hand brushing hers as he showed her a drawing he'd made of her, fierce, unbowed. Encouraged, Aisha decided to go to prom, borrowing money from her savings to buy fabric for her gown. Her grandmother, visiting from Nigeria, spent nights stitching it, weaving in tales of ancestors who fought colonial oppressors. "This dress is your armor, child," she said, her wrinkled hands steady. Aisha trained harder in secret, sneaking to the old community center gym where she'd found a heavy bag to pummel her frustrations into. Boxing was her therapy, her secret weapon. But she vowed not to use it unless necessary. Violence wasn't the answer her parents had raised her for. The challenges mounted like storm clouds. At school, the bullying escalated. Brittany's clique hacked into Aisha's social media, posting edited photos of her with monkey emojis and captions like, "Go back to the zoo." The comments flooded in, some from strangers, amplifying the hate. Aisha's grades slipped as sleep evaded her, haunted by nightmares of isolation. Her father noticed her withdrawn state and sat her down one evening. "We came here for a better life, not to hide who we are," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But fighting with fists might close doors we need open." Torn, Aisha confided in Marcus, who urged her to report the bullies. They went to the principal together, but the response was lukewarm, a warning to Brittany that only fueled her resentment. Snitch, she hissed in the halls, rallying her friends for revenge. Mia, feeling a twinge of guilt, almost backed out but feared losing her place in the group. Jake, pressured by his coach to stay out of trouble, went along half-heartedly, his laughs forced. Prom night arrived under a canopy of stars, the gym alive with excitement. Aisha stepped in, her gown shimmering, her braids adorned with beads that clicked softly like warrior charms. Marcus met her at the door, his tux crisp, a corsage in hand. "You look like a queen," he whispered, and for a moment, she believed it. They danced under the lights, laughter bubbling up as they shared stories, his of growing up without a father, hers of sparring under Lego sunsets. But Brittany watched from afar, jealousy twisting her features. "Time to teach her a lesson," she muttered to her clique. They rigged a bucket above the photo booth, filled with punch mixed with food coloring for maximum stain. As Aisha posed for a picture with Marcus, they pulled the string. The splash was deafening in her ears. Punch dripped from her hair, staining her dress crimson. The music scratched to a halt as phones whipped out, recording the spectacle. Brittany stepped forward, her voice amplified by the crowd's hush. "Oops. Looks like the new girl's all washed up. Maybe next time, stay in your lane, or your country." Laughter rippled through the room, but not everyone joined. Some shifted uncomfortably, whispers of, "That's too far," floating like ghosts. Aisha's vision blurred with tears and rage. Her body trembled, muscles coiled from years of training. She could end this with one punch, shatter Brittany's smug nose, silence the taunts forever. But as she locked eyes with Marcus, his face etched with horror and support, she remembered her uncle's words. True strength is controlling the storm inside. The resolution unfolded not in violence, but in vulnerability, turned to power. Aisha straightened, wiping punch from her eyes. "You think this humiliates me?" she said, her voice steady, accent proud and unhidden. "I've faced worse than cowards like you. Back home, I boxed champions twice my size. I came here for a future, not your approval." The gym fell silent. She turned to the crowd. "Bullying isn't strength, it's fear. Fear of difference, fear of change. But I'm not afraid." Brittany faltered, her smirk fading as murmurs of agreement rose. Mia stepped back, ashamed. Jake averted his eyes, the weight of his actions hitting him. Marcus grabbed a microphone from the DJ booth. "Aisha's right. This stops now." He shared his own story of being called half-breed, rallying others. Students who'd been silent victims spoke up, a gay boy targeted for his mannerisms, a overweight girl mocked for her size. The principal, alerted by the commotion, intervened, suspending Brittany on the spot. But the real change came from within. Brittany, alone in the aftermath, confronted her pain, eventually apologizing in a tearful school assembly weeks later. "I was hurting, and I hurt you to feel better," she admitted to Aisha. It wasn't instant forgiveness, but a start. Aisha, with Marcus by her side, founded a school club for inclusivity, teaching self-defense classes that empowered without aggression. Months later, Aisha stood in the ring at a local boxing tournament, her family cheering. She'd won not just the match, but her place in Evergreen. The town, once divided, began to heal, inspired by her resilience. She graduated with honors, heading to college on a scholarship, her story a beacon. Kindness is the ultimate knockout punch.